At this time, I will turn it over to, ladies and gentlemen, Bob Coppedge.
Yay. And Kevin, you know. What's happening? Office 2013 goes RTM. That happened Friday. Released to manufacturing, which means that they're done changing it. The Surface. Apple's kicking their butt. The Droids are kicking their butt. All that kind of fun stuff. So Microsoft decided they've got to get in there. And their solution to this is this whole combination. It's what we talked about last month with Office 2013. It's with this. It's with some of the enhancements that's coming to Office 365. Because one of the biggest challenges for iPad people is they don't have Office. Okay? So how do they modify Office documents? Well, there's web-based solutions, there's other, but there's not an actual edition of Office that's available. So, the Surface. Now, Microsoft has two choices on how to do traditional hardware. One is the Apple mode. Apple builds their hardware. Apple sells their hardware. Apple designs their hardware. There's no other, that's it. Apple does it. Or number two, the traditional Microsoft way. Hey, Dell, go build something. HP, go build something. We'll help you, we'll make sure, but it's up to you guys. So Microsoft, taking a look at those two options, decided very strongly and very distinctly to kind of do a little bit of maybe a little bit of both of them. So we have Surface tablets. The Surface tablet is a line of Microsoft designed and Microsoft manufactured tablet devices. In addition to that, they're also relying on third party. So Samsung, HP, Dell, they're putting out their devices. The Surface line of products is the Microsoft manufactured product line. So when you talk about a Windows RT tablet, it may or may not be Microsoft. If you talk about a Surface tablet, it is Microsoft. Okay? And it's going to be interesting because you have some folks who are like, the manufacturers are like, are we competing with Microsoft? Are we not? And the answer is yeah, sort of, kind of, maybe no. Okay? So this is released the 26th of October, the RT version. All right? What is the RT version? The RT version is the reduced instruction set. RT is a chipset that basically has less functionality than a traditional Intel or AMD full-blown PC chipset. It's not as powerful, can't do as much. The iPads run on them, the Droids run on them, and they run very nicely. They have longer power, they cost less, they can fit in a smaller box, you know, all that good fun stuff. So, the Surface, Windows has an RT version, which is for the ARM, as well as a full-blown version. So, I'm sorry?
When does the full-blown version?
The full-blown version of the tablet? The full-blown version of the tablet of the Surface tablet has not been announced yet. All right? My suspicion is first quarter?
Probably.
Okay. But we're seeing Windows 8 tablets from other manufacturers are going to be sooner. Okay? Keep in mind, Microsoft wants to get out in time for the holidays. All right? So they're going to push, and that's more an RT market. So they're going to push for the RTs. This tablet right here, which is a Samsung, okay? It's got 4 gig of RAM. It's a full-blown Windows tablet, so it runs full-blown Windows 8 Professional. All Windows, all that kind of thing. I actually got that in March. And it's got 4 gig of RAM, and it's got about 100 gig hard drive and an SSD drive, solid state drive, so it's all, you know, electronic. So from that standpoint, there's nothing preventing anybody from coming out with the tablet now. But there are better tablets that are going to be released. So, yeah.
Bob, I was going to order one of those, and there was something on the website that caught me back. It said only certified peripherals, printers specifically, will run with that. And I couldn't find the list, and I don't want to have to upgrade my printers because we get rid of them. Can you comment on what actually does work and what doesn't work from a peripheral perspective?
No. Anyway, so here's the challenge: is that I don't believe at this point there is an accepted hardware list for the RT stuff.
Haven't come across one yet.
Okay. If you are talking about a true Windows 8 device, not an RT, but a true Windows 8, if it's good for Windows 7, it should be good for Windows 8 because it's full-blown Windows. So the question is on the RT side. Okay? So, but that's a good question.
It's similar to like the iPad. You can't, not all printers work with, well, you can't even plug in because there's no USB ports, but the same concept that not all devices work with the iPad unless it was built specifically around that. You're going to have the same issue with these guys. But when the full-blown version comes out, you'll have just like any old desktop, laptop, whatever.
Yeah. Part of the challenge is going to be that there's part of it's going to be up to the manufacturers, because a lot of manufacturers are just, they write their own drivers. So if their drivers adhere to this configuration or that configuration, that's great. But Microsoft doesn't have, and again, it gets back to the Apple runs the game. You know, the only way you can play with Apple is if you play with Apple. So it's a little bit tougher from that standpoint to corral all the manufacturers together to say, yes, we're good for this or good for that. I will say this, the odds of a device working is inversely proportionate to the age of the device. So if you have a device that was manufactured pre-Windows 7, I would assume it won't work. If you have a device that was within the Windows 7 area, I think there's probably a good chance to a degree. And if it goes beyond, if it goes more recently, then the manufacturer should declare whether it's going to work or not. One of the other challenges is keep in mind that a lot of the technology that goes into the drivers, such as ActiveX control, don't work in RT. They don't work in the AMD environment at all. So it depends on how the manufacturer chose to include their tools. Does that make sense? If so, can you explain it to me? Okay, a little bit of information on the Surface tablets. So the RT, again, that is the direct one-to-one with the iPads and the Droids. 1.5 pounds, 2 gig of RAM. Most tablets at this point are in the 1 gig range. So 32 to 64 gig of storage, depending upon the model you get. I believe, again, that's roughly double what traditional tablets have. And includes Microsoft Office RT. Includes it now. Right now, the final version isn't out yet. So it includes the preview edition. So if you go out and you buy a Surface RT tablet, or actually I think any Office or any Windows RT, it will include the Office. Office is limited to the applications. It does not have all the applications that full-blown Office does. It does not have Outlook, all right? It does not have Access, okay? It's pretty much Word, Excel, PowerPoint, Link, and OneNote, okay? Why doesn't it have Outlook? Because Outlook is a very complicated program. It needs a lot more horsepower, and Windows 8 has a built-in email client that will do a majority of what you need done, and we'll show that as we go through. Okay? The Surface Pro available, that's where we talk about the release date, and more than above. So the Surface Pro is going to have 4 gig of RAM, and it's going to have either 64 or about 100 gig of storage. Okay? But it does not include Office. Just like a laptop doesn't necessarily include Office, or a desktop doesn't necessarily include Office. You can purchase it and install it, but it's not going to be there. Okay. Oh, by the way, the Office 2013 preview will automatically upgrade to the full-blown, to the final version once it's released. So you're going to start with the preview version, but once the full version, the final version is released, your tablet will automatically be updated. Think about that. Every other time we have Microsoft, we have this patching and this update and this that. No, it's just going to update. Just like Apple. Some of that stuff just happens. Okay?
Before you move on,
Yep.
did I understand you correctly? You said the Surface RT will not run ActiveX control?
there's a whole bunch of things that the Surface RT will not run. Yeah.
Does that mean that, in a sense, we could have websites that aren't going to work properly, almost like the iPad and Flash?
Exactly.
Correct.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, it's one of those, when you have a connection, so you go to the server has the website. There are mechanics that are implemented on the website in order to do something fancy for you, that if they had to do it and download it, it would never happen. You know, you don't actually see the animation on the server. The animation is run down on your device. And the problem is that some of the tools that are used for those, I'm just using animation as an example, are too complicated an application to run on these lower powered devices, these tablets. Okay, so they're not going to. Now, this creates a real interesting dilemma for the content provider at the website, because I've now got 3 types of people who are going to consume my information, whatever that information is. I've got the person who's just sitting with a laptop or a desktop, so I've got full browser, I've got Flash, I've got everything. So I want as full featured an experience as I can possibly give them. Then the second is I've got this person who's got this mobile device, which by definition is not going to be as powerful. So if I give them everything I gave the laptop, it won't work. But I still want to give them something. So do I give them, that'll have the Droid, that'll have the iPad? Do I give them that has the RT? It's a challenge. And then finally, you got these guys, which has limited technology and just as importantly has a limited view screen as far as how close and how well we can see them. If you talk to, what's the guy's name, Facebook guy? Zuckerberg. If you talk, because I talked to him last week. One of the biggest things, if you just ask him, if he started Facebook today, what would he do? Focus on mobile. So that's the one thing he would do more than anything else. And if you talk to people about the strengths and weaknesses of Facebook, the biggest weakness of Facebook is its mobile presence. And that it's not as clear-cut, not as well defined for that. So for those of you who are representing or working with companies who have that kind of, we have a presence on the web, you've got to, and Windows 8 doesn't change this at all, but you've got that dilemma of how do you deal with all 3 audiences, because all 3 audiences think they're the most important people in the world. And you can also have the same person who, depending upon where they're at, can consume your information each way. Yeah.
Real quick, I ordered one of the tablets this morning. It's only $100 between the 32 and 64 gig.
Yep.
And here's the one thing that I wanted to ask you, because we're an IT company, you and I work closely together. We were down at a client site. They already had 40 people having iPads, and now the tablets are coming out. I think there's going to be a lot of confusion within organizations. With the Windows 8, I don't know if it's better, but like Vista was a flop. I don't know if Windows 8 is going to,
It's going to be interesting, because here's the dilemma that Lori's talking about, because if we can give it an acronym, it's cooler. BYOD, bring your own device. If we go 10 years ago, first of all, how many of you guys are working in a corporate IT department? Corporate IT world. Okay, how many of you guys have to deal with the corporate IT world? Okay, the ones who have to deal with corporate IT, we should probably move over to another tip. But here's the challenge. 10 years ago, if somebody wanted to bring in their Palm Pilot or wanted to use their AOL for corporate email, the answer was no. And the value of doing those things wasn't that significant. It really didn't bring that much more value to the company, so it was pretty easy to make that statement. Now Apple comes out with these iPad things that are really useful. It really makes a mobile employee very effective. But it's very hard to secure it. Then they put in Dropbox so that they can save all their corporate files on their personal Dropbox account, so that they can go after it with their personal device that they let their kids do Angry Birds version 5, the musical. As a CIO, we've lost control. We don't have control of the data, we don't have control of the devices, we don't have control of the applications. But that employee is significantly more productive. How do we balance that? That's a tough decision. And the best answer to that is you educate the management and they decide which way the needle tips. But with Windows 8 and tablets, we can now start controlling things. We can now start deploying through integration of SharePoint, of SkyDrive, of Office 2013, of Office 365. We can start integrating the controls. The challenge is going to be, if you have a corporation that, let's say, has 50 employees, 25 of those, well, let's make it 60 employees, 20 employees have Droid tablets, 20 employees have iPads, 20 employees are Amish. What do we do? Well, we'll just get the Amish guys the tablets. And then they'll be, okay, but then we've got there's no good answer. But it's a project, and it's a project that management has to have an understanding of how to go.
But one more quick
Yeah.
question. Because I wasn't up with the large GEs, what we're finding out is people are realizing they don't want to be a print because you have to use a cheap office.
Yep.
It's not Word, Excel, you can open it up
Right.
in an email, but you don't have the tools, maybe in the graphics, but in the real world, some proprietary applications, I use mine for notes, blah, 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 I run some PowerPoint slides, and I think that this is going to be
Well, yeah, and like I said, if you were at our last month's lunch hour, we went to a lot. That's a big issue. Some blog articles on that as well. And you'll also notice that a year ago, around this time, Microsoft was talking quietly about doing a version of Office for iPad. And you'll notice that as soon as they decided on the Surface thing, all conversation of that stopped. And literally the answer was, we're not doing it. Because they want a solution that's the Windows. So, cool.
Hey, Bob, real quick.
Yep.
What I understand, RT will not and will support Active Directory.
Right, you cannot join it to a domain.
I think you can join it, but you can't do any group policies or any, you don't get much value out of it. So you can use I think you can use an Active Directory credential.
They changed that.
Did they? Okay. Kevin's probably right then. You have more centralized, you have some centralized control. Absolutely no group policy manager. Okay. Cool. Windows Store. Windows Store, digital. Everything. We want to download, we want to update those things. You will not be able to go to Best Buy and buy a DVD of Office 2013 when it's released. Okay? You're not going to be able to. You will go to Best Buy and buy essentially a gift card. It's basically going to be a download key. And then you go and you download the copy of Office. All right? Similarly, the digital application distribution is a big hit. It works well with Apple. Droid with now they're calling it Google Play, is doing it well. So, for WinRT-based apps, that's going to be it. The App Store is going to be the way that Microsoft says to distribute primarily consumer-based applications. It's going to be the big thing. But that's going to be their model, is using the Microsoft Windows Store. Yes, they're going to compete directly with Apple's App Store and Google Play. 1-to-1, head-to-head competition. They're going to knock Apple into. Okay.
They can't do the geniuses, they're the geniuses.
They are the geniuses. They are the
It's
geniuses.
a joke.
So, but the issue is they're basically going to use the same kind of model. Now, they're going to try to get developers to develop Windows 8 RT applications, and they can use tool sets that are traditional to them. Okay, so it's there, and I would say that there's probably a good market for Windows 8 applications aimed towards businesses that have a higher level of security and integration with networks and all that kind of fun stuff. That if somebody wanted to start doing that, probably wouldn't be bad. And then there's a new music service, because once Microsoft's done taking over Apple and Google's App Store and Play, then they turn their sight onto iTunes and complete the takeover. There's now a new music service that they just released some specifics on it this week. I guess Steve, it's been out for a bit.
Yeah, the Windows 8 release, pre-release.
Okay. And it's essentially the same idea, you know, where you can catalog and gather, download, purchase music and all that fun stuff.
World domination.
Absolutely, absolutely. Unfortunately, so far the world is Mercury. But, you know. Feature SmackDown. By the way, we'll actually get to the product in a couple of minutes. This is actually kind of interesting, and it gets into the kind of one-stop shopping, if you will, is you will be able to integrate the account that you use to log on to your tablet, integrate it to your Xbox Live, is it still called Windows Live or Live ID? Windows Live, okay. And SkyDrive. So it's going to be one set of credentials and it's integrated. So to give you an idea, when I log on to my tablet, and it's a Pro version, it's not an RT version. When I log onto my tablet, I'm actually using my Windows Live ID to connect. It automatically integrates me with my SkyDrive. SkyDrive is automatically tied in to my Office 2013, and I've also got it integrated in my laptop back at the office, which is a Windows 7. So what I was doing is I was working on my laptop on this PowerPoint presentation in our traditional time frame, which is usually about half an hour before we're here, and I saved it to my SkyDrive. I then went over to my tablet when we got here, opened up PowerPoint, and my recent document was this presentation, and I just opened it. I didn't have to do anything. I didn't have to specifically state, when you save a document, the option is your SharePoint site, your SkyDrive account, or your computer, plus some other things. So you can, right in the save menu, specify I want to put stuff in SkyDrive. It's in there. So we talk about that employee who is going off-site with their documentation. All they have to do is open it to the SkyDrive, open it on the SharePoint, boom, it downloads it up, you know, and then when they save it, it uploads it, and if they then go back to their desktop environment or their laptop environment, the history's there, it's there. They don't have to, oh yeah, I was on my SkyDrive when I updated that on my tablet at home, now I got it, it's in there. From an IT support standpoint, not bad. Okay? And again, SkyDrive, a big part of Office 2013 and a big part of the next release of Office 365. Office 2013 is going to start being released in November. It's going to start rolling out. Office 365. How many of you guys are Office 365? Okay, cool. There's going to be more, there's going to be integration into Office 2013 starting to roll out in November as well.
And because I've been around 21 years and meeting with our clients, everyone's going 365.
Yep.
No one's going to jump to 2013 because they're just installing 2010 and they're getting exhausted, so they're going to try to work. So it's a money issue. Okay, we just installed 2010, spent 6 months doing a rollout, like in Bendex, a year rollout,
Yep.
and now they don't even want anything new.
Well, the interesting thing that's going to be on that is Microsoft is in the process of announcing new pricing models for everything. And if you'll notice that a lot of the pricing for the desktop models are going to start going up. But the 365 isn't. Okay? And the 365 model, they're actually going to release Office 2013 integrated with 365. So you can actually purchase Office without committing to the email or any of the cloud stuff. And it's the 365 pricing is going to be more compelling than the traditional Office licensing for organizations. Anybody want to talk about that? We'd love to. We're a Microsoft second-tier cloud champion, blah, blah, blah. Yes, and I'm sorry. Wait, first of all, you had a comment to make before, and I forgot to get back to you.
Yeah, is the account integration, is that for all the bells and whistles that you spoke of for the consumer end to make consumers happy, or is that more for Microsoft to do the big brother thing and track everything that you're doing?
Yes, and that's what Microsoft told me to say to you. Because if they don't, then they kill my puppy. It's a combination of things. First of all, is if we take, again, a look at that employee, essentially, I'm going to do one of three things. One, I'm going to save it on my device, so I've got it, nobody else has it. Okay, that's traditional what we've got now. Number two, I'm going to save it in the cloud on my SkyDrive, and my SkyDrive is attached to my Live ID account. Now, as far as whether or not your company has access to that, that's a corporate policy issue, okay? And then the third would be SharePoint, which of course now we're talking about true integration into corporate organizations. An individual can use a SkyDrive in a more traditional Dropbox kind of environment, where I'm just going to synchronize my, pictures and my music and all of that kind of good stuff. They can go ahead and do that. And the default SkyDrive account, depending upon where you go, default SkyDrive right now is 5 gig, John? 7 gig, sorry. So you can get a free SkyDrive account right now for 5 gig. You can get a free Dropbox account for 2 gig. Okay, and again, SkyDrive integrates with Office, which is a big thing to a lot of end user folks. So, and then you had a question.
So is there any security on this? Can as a corporate?
Yes, of course there is. Anyway.
But can I like restrict the devices you can download?
No, it is not device-centric, it's user-centric.
Right, so
Yeah.
it's gone.
Yeah, I mean, and to a certain degree, here's the problem. And it gets back to that access versus security. I want to be able to get to my data no matter where I'm at. If I'm online, I want to get to it. If I'm offline, I want to get to it. If I'm on my device, I want to get to it. If I'm using a kiosk or whatever, I want to get to it. The only solutions that are not going to involve third-party, whether it be biometrics or key-based or anything along those lines, are going to have to be based on a combination of those things. There really, at least that I'm aware of, there really isn't any other way. It gets back to that example that I've used in the past. If you live in an apartment and you get 2 keys, you get a key to the apartment building that everybody there has the same key, and you have a key to your apartment itself. And you're sitting there and you're going to go into your apartment building, so you're opening the door, and you see somebody 5-10 feet behind you. You have no idea who they are, but they're carrying groceries. Do you hold the door open for them? Okay? If you hold the door open for them, Microsoft will collapse. For anyone watching the video, a poster fell. If you hold the door open for them, you are a nice person, and you just let a potential serial killer into the building. If you close the door, thank you, because you're keeping us safe and secure, you insecure jerk. And the problem is, for companies and for individuals, you have to make that judgment call. And whatever you do, you're wrong. Unfortunately, it's one of those, at the end of the day, we talk about risk assessment, there's risk acceptance as well. You have to understand that either way you lean causes some challenges or issues. Ribbons for everybody. What have we added ribbons to? Like File Explorer?
Explorer, pretty much everything now is going to have the lovely ribbon interface, which does make more sense, again, for the tablet environment. For the desktop environment, yay, thanks.
Yep. And better memory management, we'll go into more detail on that. But you want to
The basic gist is, and we've got a slide in here as well, Windows 8 will run more efficiently on slower hardware. So where the traditional model is, you get a new version of Windows, you have to go spend the money on a newer, faster computer or whatever. Windows 8 actually uses less resources than Windows 7. So if you have a Windows 7 compatible machine now, odds are it will work, and probably work better with Windows 8.
And just to add one thing to that, in Windows 7 worked better than Vista. So prior to that, every new release took more memory, took more resources, took longer, all that. But since Vista, it's actually taking less. They're tightening the code as opposed to expanding it. Okay. Family safety is integrated. Only thing I point out here is Windows Live had some family features as far as, you could like web filtering or blocking content, all that kind of thing. It's now built into Windows 8. I don't care about my family, so it's not that big a deal to me. And then Hyper-V is built in. The solution that Microsoft came up with, was this a 7 or was it Vista? Virtual PC? It was 7. Yeah. Windows 7, Yeah, Windows 7 is, if you had XP applications, you would use Virtual PC to run an XP instance underneath. Windows 7 eliminates that, and instead you can actually run the full virtualization component of Windows called Hyper-V. Okay? Geeks care about that, the rest of us, oh, thank whatever. Versions. They've simplified this actually. We've got just Windows 8. That's the consumer version. That's what's going to come with almost all your traditional desktops, laptops, kind of like the home premium is now the default. Okay. Windows 8 Pro, you notice they dropped the business thing. It's just Windows 8 Professional. Some of the additional features there, BitLocker, which allows you to encrypt your device. Hyper-V we talked about briefly, and this one can join a domain. So companies, this is the one you want. All right? Then we've got Windows 8 Enterprise. You remember how we used to have Windows 7 Ultimate and Windows 7 Enterprise? What's the difference? None, just licensing. So what's the difference in these two? Pretty much none, just licensing. Okay? And then Windows 8 RT for the ARM-based tablets. So for a full Windows tablet, you can be using these guys. For an ARM-based tablet, it's Windows 8 RT.
Also, the top 3 you can buy. These you can go buy through any distributor, OEM with a product or whatever. RT only comes through OEM channels, basically through your, either through Microsoft or your HP, your Dell, built onto the tablet. You can't get your hands on that one by itself.
If you're a Microsoft partner,
The RT?
not the RT, but the others.
Oh, yeah.
They just give you the key,
Mhm.
how many licenses.
Yep. Memory?
Kind of hard to read up here, but this is, just getting back to that whole Windows 8, it runs better on Windows 7. The task manager screen here, this is a Windows 7 pre-SP1, blank install. These are actually the ones used in the build, one of the build conferences. That says 404 meg of memory, and we've got 32 processes running. This is, again, blank slate. Windows 7, you finish installing. This is Windows 8, right out of the box, done installing. We're down to 281 meg of memory, 29 processes. So already we're starting a lot lower on resources for the machines. You know, as a result, it's going to run a little bit better. These were actually the same hardware compared to against each other.
Is it just less processes, or is it also that the processes are using less memory on
Both.
top of it?
Yes.
Both, yes.
Yep.
Question. Is user access control going? I see the little shield on the left and no shield on the right.
No, it's there.
Okay, I just didn't know.
Sorry.
What did you say?
User access
Yeah.
control.
User access control is still there.
Okay.
They haven't come up with a better way to control this stuff.
Usually the memory part is usually employee error. They have 5,000 things open, and they wonder why Peachtree is crashing with access,
Yep.
2 different databases.
Okay, Microsoft started here's the biggie. This is why Windows 8 is out there. Microsoft wants tablets. Microsoft wants devices. They want to get away from being tied completely to tablets, or excuse me, to laptops and desktops. And the only way they could do that is a touch-based interface. Legend has it that at the last CES, Computer Electronics Show, a couple of the higher muckety-mucks at Microsoft were walking around, and they noticed that all of the monitors at the Consumer Electronics Show had finger smudges on them. People trying to operate whatever the screen, regardless of whether it was touch-based. That was what people were thinking of, and that's what people would do. Now, having grandkids use my laptop, I can tell you that's not the only reason you end up with finger smudges on your laptops. But, so what they did was they basically said this is going to be touch-based interface. And I can tell you right now, Windows 7 is not touch-based. You can get it for a tablet, it doesn't work pretty, it doesn't work well. So they rebuilt the whole thing. The next issue became, do we want to have 2 interfaces? A traditional interface for the desktop people and laptop people, and a non-traditional interface for the tablet. Here's the problem. If you create two totally different user experiences, you lose the economy of training and skill transfer. If you are talking about an interface that a tablet person understands and uses, and then they go to a completely different profile, a desktop or a laptop, and they use a completely different interface, that's a problem. And then what's the difference between somebody having a laptop and an iPad and a laptop and a Windows tablet? Okay.
I saw a YouTube video of a tiny baby who had seen the family use an iPad, and they gave her a magazine, and she was trying to activate the pictures on the magazine like the iPad. So it's just a natural human thing.
Absolutely. Absolutely. My wife did the same. No, we cut that part out too. I'm gonna have to buy somebody dinner. So they started out calling it the Metro UI, Metro User Interface. And then once everybody got used to talking about the Metro interface, Microsoft, of course, changed the name. So now it's called the Windows UI. And the Windows UI, we'll get into that in a minute once we're done with this silliness. It competes with the iPad Android interface. Okay, so you're going to see some similarities, some differences. Also, it is on the laptop, the desktop, the tablet, the phone, the server. It's on all of them. It's the new interface. And I guarantee, it's interesting, this interface was the biggest complaint that everybody had in Windows 8 testing, by far and away. And it's absolutely deserved. It is a new way of doing things, a new interface. That said, it is a fantastic interface for the tablet.
But remember when you gave the presentation at the Greater Cleveland PC User Group?
Oh, shit.
You had the Metro thing up there, and a woman stood up in the middle, and she says, "I don't have to put up with this," and she laughed.
I thought I was dating again. It was just kind of,
That's it, I'm leaving.
there you go, there you go. Yeah, I mean, there is a big response to that. There really is, and it's justified to a point. I will say this, I purposefully bought a tablet and the first work I did with Windows 8 was on a tablet. And I didn't touch a desktop at all, or a laptop at all in Windows 8. Finally, about 2 or 3 months later, I put it on my laptop. And I was fine. It was no big deal. Now, what ended up happening was we had one critical application which literally until this past weekend wouldn't run on Windows 8, so I couldn't stick with Windows 8. But if you're going to upgrade to Windows 8, buy a tablet first. Microsoft wanted me to tell you that. One of the things that happens is the application management for the Metro apps is automatic. And we'll kind of show what we mean by that when we get into the demos. And the power and the memory for a Metro app, meaning it's an application that was written for the new Windows UI. It's not a traditional Windows application. We'll show the differences between them. Consume less power, less memory. Okay? Any questions on that? Server. Just got one slide on server. How many of you guys, if we did it wouldn't be a lunch and hour, because a lunch and hour we try to keep to just business level resource. How many of you guys would be interested if we did a server deep dive? I'd really rather you weren't. Okay, let me ask this question, because Kevin wanted to do this. How many of you guys, and we asked about this at our picnic, and we just haven't had the time. How many of you guys would want to do, what do we call those, install fests? Yeah. An install fest with either Windows 8 or Office 2013.
Install fest?
Install fest. Yes, okay. That would be basically where you bring your laptop, your tablet, your whatever.
Your beer.
Your beer.
Make it an Oktoberfest.
Yeah, an Oktoberfest. And everybody, we walk you through installing and configuring either Windows 8 or Office 2013 on your device right there. Is that of interest to anybody?
How much alcohol is involved?
I don't know. We actually, one of the things we do with about 75 or 80 managed service providers, I am the originator of what we call BOIPinars, beer over IP. And we've done about 3 web sessions so far, which I've been coordinating, talking about network auditing and things that managed service providers run into. And we have between like 50 and 60 people attending until they find out there's actually no beer over IP, and then we kind of, but yeah. Okay. As far as the server goes, server management, one-to-many capabilities, so that you can actually take a look at a screen, which is going to have, here's all your servers, and you essentially select the server and can manage it there. If you've done SQL Server management or Exchange management, not from a user interface, but from a concept, you've seen that before. There's going to be a lot of that. Server core, huge difference. With Windows Server 2008 and 2008 R2 Server Core, which is essentially the server running with a lot less pieces, parts actually activated. It was good, but it was limited. In 2012, you can do a lot more with Server Core. And actually, if you're running a server with as Server Core, I think it's like 60% fewer updates and patches. More than half of the patches that have to be done to a server are because of the user interfaces and all the tools that Server Core bypasses. So, cool. PowerShell. PowerShell is an absolutely horrible way to do it.
Microsoft is changing away from the GUI. Yes, there's a lot of things you can do with Server 2012 with the GUIs, but you can do, there's actually some functionality you can only do with PowerShell. The main reasoning is because you can control multiple, or do multiple things on multiple computers at once. There's no more, if you have to update 6 computers, going to each one, click. There are PowerShell commands to do virtually everything, and you just tell it, all right, I want to push out this command to this many computers, and go have fun and tell me when you're done.
We'll do that in our training rooms. The loads are, you cut the loads down to 2-3 minutes.
Yeah, whatever.
You have a menu and press it and boom.
So here's the thing, a GUI, graphical user interface. You point to something, you click on something, and it does it. Now we replace that with you get to write a program, which is what we use GUIs to replace. We have a long-standing love-hate relationship with Power. I have a long-standing love-hate relationship with PowerShell. In all seriousness, in some seriousness, PowerShell is the management tool for servers and deployment. Period. If you are going to look to be in an environment where you as an IT professional are going to be deploying and managing, you bloody well better understand this. Okay? This is not going away. I wish it was. This is not going to be something that's going to be magically replaced with, Clippy is coming back. That would be cool, but no. It is huge, and it's pervasive. It's what you use to manage SQL. It's what you use to manage servers. It's what you use to manage application deployment. It's what you use to manage Exchange. It's what you use to manage Office 365. The GUI is still there, but PowerShell is the way to effectively and efficiently manage larger organizations. And everybody in IT is all about do more with less. So, again, to demonstrate,
Yes.
this is my tablet. It's a Samsung, and again, I bought it in March. All right, this cost about $1,400 or so street price. This is a laptop for all purposes. We got 4 gig of RAM, about 100 gig of SSD drive, and I bought it purposefully with this size screen. I wanted a monitor I could actually work with. As you can see, it's got HDMI. We can connect to it, no problem. It's also got Bluetooth, USB. Works very, very nicely. 2 cameras, front and back. And again, I just installed the Windows 8. Now, there's always the question, where's the start button? It's gone.
How do you start?
With that, welcome to the new Windows Start.
And you'll notice
Too much
what,
advertising, it's too much junk.
Oh, and I can take off as much as I want to.
Oh, you
I can go, you can customize it too.
and if you notice how Bob brought this up, the the traditional start button was a button. You just clicked it. What he did was he took his finger from off of the edge of the screen and you swipe just to the right. So what happens is you are presented with this interface here. This is called the charm bar.
And there's
So
start
what?
right there.
Charm.
So when you see how your apps look on your start,
Well, this is the start. If you click on that start, you're just going to bring the screen up.
oh, but where's all your apps, which,
The apps,
Having the toolbar hidden off to the side.
no, I see the sky, yeah, you just, okay.
I've got that. Plus, I can swipe from the bottom and see all apps.
And you can make folders so you can have.
You can make folders, you can put them, you can or move them around.
That would drive me
You
crazy.
can do all the other stuff. Yeah,
Would. I'd make folders, social media.
absolutely. Now, and in some cases, you have, and these are Metro apps. So the Metro apps, for example, if I go to weather, just click on it, bring it up. Your traditional, here's got all that good fun stuff. And you can then also swipe from the left to the right to switch between the applications that you've got running.
The equivalent of Alt-Tab from the previous version of Windows.
You've got your traditional desktop, which is right here. So it's all there, relatively speaking. Okay?
Hey, Bob, real quick, when
Yeah.
we're building websites, when we're building the mobile apps, a lot of the companies that are building websites, you can't actually click on the menus of the websites or the apps because some of the companies that are building the websites aren't considering to making the drop-downs larger.
Right.
Because you're trying to drive to, and you have to, you literally have to take a Q-tip to hit it. So when
Right.
we're building the websites now, we're giving the mobile apps a larger.
Okay, I'm going to regret this, but most people would say you should not navigate while driving.
Right.
Lori, what do you drive?
I drive a Honda Freedom.
What else do you drive?
I drive a 1450 and a Hummer.
Hummer.
That says more technologies on
I
it.
know, absolutely, absolutely. So if you have a Hummer on, then it doesn't matter because you can just use the Q-tip and that'll work fine. If you're not, no, but absolutely, and that gets back to, remember I was saying those three categories of users or consumers of that data? If you're not conscious, if you don't have a certain level of consciousness as far as who those people are and what their experience is going to be, you can have that. You could also have a website that's aimed at the mobile people, person on a laptop goes to and they go, where is everything? I can't do things. So,
Bob, I have folks that ask me to look at their websites all the time before they publish them.
yeah.
I cannot tell you how many people will start off their fancy little website with a fancy little flash introduction.
Absolutely.
And all, that's not gonna run on any of this stuff.
Yep.
And for some reason, they're mad at me when I tell them that.
Well, there's lots of reasons to get mad at you. Okay, so that's just one more. I wouldn't take it so personally. But yeah, absolutely. And it gets to the question, the business question, who's your consumer? And how is that person going to consume your information? And unfortunately, your consumer gets to decide that. Your consumer gets to decide, I browse with this, I browse with that, I browse with that. Now, it's different if you have a sales force. If you have a sales force that's going on, you get to tell them, which gets to an easier question. If you think about it, let's take that 20-20-20 question we had earlier. Now let's say that we've got those 60 people are salespeople out there, and they're going to use an application that we develop that's going to allow them to put in their information. It would be cheaper just to buy them 60 Windows tablets than it would to have a Droid-based, a Windows iPad-based, and a Windows tablet-based. Just replace the hardware. That's easier. But these are the dilemmas we have to run into.
Are you gonna buy a new tablet or are you gonna keep that?
Oh, this one's fine. I mean, it basically gives me like I say, it's a full Windows. So we'll probably get a Surface just so we can test
It's
it
your girlfriend.
and play with it. Absolutely. So we've got the applications, all that. I can also sweep from the bottom, go all apps. And I can add any of these or I can just click on them.
And if you did notice on the start button itself, or the start page itself, all those tiles are not static. They are dynamic. They will update, and you saw some of them flipping through.
Yep.
They are
Yeah.
there is some location based, but that was one of the major benefits of using that interface.
Are they
is-
recyclable?
Hmm?
Are they-
Yeah.
Yeah, you can hide,
Move 'em.
grow, move, discard, add,
No,
whatever.
I mean like bigger and small. Like, cause they are, okay.
Yep.
Brandon, he's-
Okay, for those of you online, we're switching over to a laptop now.
I'm curious.
Sure. That's the presentation. There's my email and ping. All right, here is my laptop on Windows 8. I just happen to be in the desktop environment, but that sweeping motion that Bob made, well, you can see my mouse. I can't really do that with that. What I have to do, move the mouse all the way to the lower right or upper right corner. So that's your new hotspot area. So if I want to do something there,
Kind of like where you have to hit the hang start bar, you just gotta get to that right spot.
Yep.
So from here, hey, here's my Windows UI.
Okay.
Bob can very easily just take his finger, slide stuff left and right. All right, well that's just me moving my finger back and forth. I've got my left mouse button down. Nothing's still happening. Notice at the bottom, hey, this is how I move to everything. So again, it's another bit of, it's designed for the tablet. You have to constantly remind yourself while you're using this. I know there are some mice out there that will let you do the horizontal movement. I don't know if those work. I would kind of assume they do.
If you hit your page up or down or arrows, can you use those as well?
Yeah,
Once you've selected this.
yeah. Once I'm in this mode, this is
Right.
me hitting page down, page up.
Yeah, keep in mind what's happening on this is also you have people who are developing applications to replace some of this stuff, which I'm not sure I would go with immediately. But here's the challenge is that for the first time, Microsoft has implemented interface pieces that are completely hidden and critical. If you are going to deploy Windows 8, whether it be in your family or at your company, you have got to make sure that people understand absolutely how to get these components working, because it's not clear.
If you're on your desktop and you hit the Windows key, you want to bring that up?
Yeah. There's my desktop, hitting the Windows key.
Yep.
That will bring it up as well. I believe in Windows 8 they added 20 or 30 new like Windows something shortcuts.
Good.
So there are some.
But you need to. But again, as an IT person, you need to communicate that to your users, or else they're gonna hate it. If you do not communicate that right out of the gate, it's a fail.
I heard something this will toggle to a Windows 7 format.
It will toggle to that Windows desktop display.
And this is the
That's
same.
it. That's it. Now, it's fairly easy to dual boot a Windows 7 and a Windows 8 machine, so it can boot with either one.
We haven't found all the bugs yet because,
Oh, yeah.
you know, there's gonna,
Always.
Vista is just a mess.
Yeah, Vista is, I mean, this is an extent, it's a big update. It's a big update. But so far, from the speed and performance issues, haven't heard a lot of complaints. The biggest, 100% biggest complaint is this interface. That is by far and away it, and I have not heard anybody complain about it on a tablet.
It's the future, that's all it is. Some people don't want to.
It's changing, too. Anything else?
Once you get to something you're in Word, does it look like whatever version of Word you're in?
Pretty much.
You don't have to do anything, scratch your head and call your dog to get somewhere.
Depends on the dog. Yeah.
I mean, this is me just loading up Word.
Now, this is Word
And
2013.
you want to open up a search directory for a file. So it looks the same.
Right, now, one thing I want to point out
Oh, I
here
like that.
is look here.
Oh, I love it.
Computer, SkyDrive, and because I've configured mine all the way, mine has the SharePoint site as well. And it will list all the recent documents, even if you open the documents on another device. So it will show me the recent documents that I opened on my laptop or tablet. That's built in. So you don't have to teach someone how to open SkyDrive, how to open the SharePoint, how to navigate to it. You configure these parts during the installation, done.
What version is that?
This is this is Word 2013. It's currently in beta and will start to be released in November.
You see up here.
Versions, would it look like that?
It will look like the older versions.
Okay.
But there are classes that we're running in SkyDrive so that they can delegate administrative, so all the employees don't see.
Oh, absolutely.
So even though that they click in, it's easy, there's a whole other piece to it,
Yep.
administrative.
But this is cool because it's not there in terms of administration, in terms of management or anything like that. The user just opens up the document that they want based on this traditional navigation.
Yeah, the Office integration is pretty nice. It's
Yeah.
the rest of Windows around it that can be annoying.
Is there any more like control panel if you need to add a printer or you need to?
The charm bar is sensitive to where you're at, so if I hit, if I'm here and I hit settings, I've got control panel access here. If I switch over to the start menu, settings, control panel. And this actually works for the Google store, or the Google store, the Microsoft store.
Stay on the Google game.
We go here, search smart glass, which I was hoping to show this off, but it wasn't there. That search now knew I was in the Microsoft store, and it did a search in the Microsoft store.
So briefly, what does this do?
What I was hoping to do, it didn't work out. How many of you have an Xbox at home? Windows 8 has this nice little application. You can completely control your Xbox from Windows 8. It's just a free application you install. And I was hoping to show that off, but between time and prep and all that other stuff, didn't quite get to it. And installing stuff is as easy as clicking on install on it.
I'm not gonna work with the Wii at all.
I haven't heard anything about the Wii,
Wii,
but
I do all my pictures, I do slideshows.
Yeah, that's going to be a third party. Microsoft is intent on integrating their line, their concept, their vision. That's what they're going for.
It takes 10 seconds. Instead of
You got anything else, Chris?
video.
something I noticed about the store, say you have two accounts on your computer, like say mom has an account, dad has an account, kid has an account, whatever. I noticed that the start button, like there's the smart glass installing. If I were to switch over to another account, I actually have to go back to the Microsoft Store, tell it install. It's already in there, it just has to build all the shortcuts and then it'll show up there. That was another little thing I noticed. And the last thing, this is one of the annoyances. Let's say we go into pictures.
The ribbon?
Yes.
Yep, up here. Hey, look, it's the ribbon, everyone's friend. And let's say here, let's look at the really cute kid.
Get a picture of my son.
All right, so I was in the desktop environment, okay?
Looks abandoned to me.
Yeah. If you want to go back out of the picture, I mean, there's your typical, hit escape. Oh, wait, I'm now in the picture app. Yeah, I mean, it is a case of, hey, I'm now in this program. How do I get back out of it? Another hotspot to hit is the upper left corner. That will let you select where you want to go.
Just like when we first got the iPads 2 years ago.
Yep.
You had to
There's
click all
going
over
to
the
be
screen
a
to find-
there's going to be a learning curve because there are new ways to do some of these things, and a lot of them, yeah, they're kind of annoying until you know to do them.
Okay, let's do it because we're running out of time here. We're going to stick around for a few, so if anybody has any additional questions or anything like that. But obviously, there's a lot going on, and the one thing I will say about Windows 8 is don't look at Windows 8 from the standpoint of, yeah, it's nice, it does more things for the laptop and desktop, but quite honestly, not that big of a deal, honestly, relatively speaking. But when you look at the tablet, when you look at the single user interface, because the Windows Phone 8 also has the same interface. When you look at the ability from a corporate standpoint to deploy devices that no matter what device the person is using, it has the same look and feel, the same training, the same learning curve, the same UI, the same applications, the same data. The cost for implementing that, rolling it out, and maintaining that is going to be significantly different than This person wants to stick with their Office 2003 XP. This person wants to stick with their Windows 7 Office 2007. This person wants to stick with their laptop with Windows 7 and Office 2010. And this person wants their iPad, and this person wants their Droid. And by the way, they need to share documents. Okay? This is a compelling product line. And from a corporate standpoint, from a training standpoint, from a support standpoint, it actually seems to work. Okay?
Do you think it's going to beat the Apple market
I don't think it's going to beat it immediately,
in time?
but in time, I think it's going to be a compelling argument. I really do. So far, this tablet has not crashed on me. And I've been, this is what I take to clients.
But it crashed to the ground.
Yeah, it crashed. We ignored that part. Actually, my cat's knocked it over.
Where'd it drop?
Actually, so far, it's worked. Yeah, it's been solid.
I think Microsoft's going to make a great comeback because Steve Jobs, even though he has brilliant minds working around him, he was one of the brilliant minds, not just in marketing. And I think it's going to that's why Microsoft's sweeping up.
It's going to be interesting. This is the biggest change that Microsoft has done since they've embraced the internet. It's actually, this is huge. And they're not talking about it like it is, which I find weird. Anyway, thank you all very much. Like I said, we'll be sticking around a little bit. If you have any questions, whatever. Next month, we're kind of an offshoot on this, when to upgrade. It is not a sales pitch to buy new stuff. But when do you make that, how do you make that decision? Thank you.
All right, folks, Bob and Kevin. Big round of applause.
And Kevin's wife.
And Kevin's
And
wife.
Sarah.
And the
And
baby.
PowerShell.
And the cat.